I thought it was going to be a Stephen Hawking biopic, and it felt like a intricate and detailed love story, complicated love story. And I also think that I'm someone that, like, you want to try keep pushing the edges of what you can do. So when I applied for the job, it wasn't, you do that thing of persuading your employers that you think you're really confident and you know what you're doing, but actually you don't have a clue.
Predominantly it was, I'd read articles about Alan Turing sort of about 5 years ago maybe, when they were trying to get a push for his pardon. And I just thought it was extraordinary that I'd never heard of him and that I didn't know who he was or what he'd done or what had happened to him. So I think really everybody in the film wanted to be a part of trying to get that story to a wider audience. And then I loved the Joan character, you know, the fact that he was gay but they had been engaged for a minute or two, and that she did sort of think maybe it would work, and because of like an incredible friendship and a sort of meeting of minds, you know, they were absolutely fascinated by the same topic.
He brought us into contact with ideas, the sort of brilliant ideas that you think, well, of course. I mean, and that's something I think that takes a huge amount of connection to the world. So while he was different, he was ultimately, I think, the positive side of this story is that, you know, there was a huge connection with everybody else that would have said he was different, which makes him the same.
You know, you may shoot for art, but you don't hit that zone that often. You know, like it's like the way people throw the word genius around, and that's what you at least want to try to get to, art. And so, you know, then the longer you do this for a living, you say, well, at what point am I going to reach that? You know, and I'd like to look back or pass away and somebody say, you know, he was kind of an artist, you know, now and then.
Being an artist in, you know, the filmmaking community for over 20 years, I felt a personal responsibility to start to take action and produce more films that have complex female roles in them. About a week before we started the movie, I was like, I don't want to do any of it, and you cannot make me. I was like a cat on a raft. I was like, you cannot make me swim. And the only way I got through it was basically calling Cheryl and just, you know, she was so encouraging, and she's like, you're gonna do this. There's nobody but you to do this, and the only direction is forward, and that's where we're gonna go.
It was a life-changing experience, truthfully. I mean, in many ways. Personally, you know, you set goals for yourself always, but this was a pretty tall order, and I was nervous. I didn't know if I was gonna be able to do it. There were a lot of sleepless nights early on, where I really was sort of like overwhelmed with the responsibility and whether I could achieve it. And it always makes you stronger. Whether you fail at it or succeed, you gain different things from it. I've certainly done things where I've failed, and I've learned from that. But this one was a succession, or I succeeded, we succeeded. And that is very gratifying.
I understand Amy, and I think once you have an understanding for someone, it goes sort of deeper than like or dislike. I get her, I know her, I've lived inside it for 6 months, and I find her completely fascinating, compelling, alluring, sort of sexy, confounding, scary, everything. She's everything, and it's really nice to play a woman who doesn't have to be palatable all the time and is going to sort of divide people right down the middle. You know, there'll be people who root for her and there'll be people who don't. And you know, I'm interested in doing films that are provocative and playing characters that are provocative.
I threw this idea by him almost theoretically. I'm thinking about a movie and he got this weird look on his face like, yeah, that's cool, think of the possibilities. And same with Patricia, I'd only met her once, but I called her up. I thought she'd be perfect, and we just talked for 2 hours, and she came right on the movie. Everybody jumped in, artists get it, but trying to get money for it, trying to get it financed, that's a different story.